There'll be those who will not look beyond the picture of me shaking hands with a Klansman in a robe and hood. And of course, they'll have that visceral reaction like, what the hell is going on here?
How do you talk to someone when someone's calling you the N-word?
Because you take the higher road. You know who you are.
There is one question Daryl has repeatedly asked members of the Klan.
How can you hate me when you don't even know me? They've never had an answer that they can come up with that justifies how they can hate me.
His conversations with Klansmen resulted in something Daryl never expected.
I would find things in common. And as I began to build on those commonalities, the things that we had in contrast as trivial as skin color began to matter less and less. And as I built upon those commonalities, a relationship was formed.
In the last 30 years, Daryl says 200 members across the country have left the KKK as a direct result of his involvement.
Studding, right? Like, I'm not studying you a tennis shoe, but really we mean tennis shoe. I just really want black people to tell me, like, what is it derived from?
Peace. The linguistic term for pronouncing studying as studden is elision, the removal of sound or phoneme deletion from a word that, while very common in black speech, is also common in many languages and adds to fluency in speaking the language. Okay, edit. While I originally had both studden and tennis shoe categorized as examples of elision, which is technically true, I think the more accurate category for tennis shoe is haplology. Now, elision and haplology do work in similar ways, but a distinct difference is the reason that haplology occurs in a word is to remove redundancy. Like both R's in February used to be pronounced as February. Now it's February. And the way that some people pronounce library as library. And how the land of the Anglos became Angloland, turned England, now England. Which brings us to tennis shoe being pronounced as tennis shoe. And it's not so much that the S at the end of tennis is being dropped as much as it is being merged with the S at the beginning of shoe. The result of which is tennis shoe. So there you have it. Studden, elision, tennis shoe, haplology.
Let me say this about the Beatles.
All right.
I took the Beatles on this tour. They was making $50 a week a person. God bless the Beatles, and he did. I used to have to buy their steaks every day. When we had steak.
Yeah.
John Leonard would come up and make all these big bills, and I had to pay them. I had the Beatles, I had Jerry and the Pacemakers, and a group called the Swingin' Blue Jeans. I had Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. He made his first tour. Nobody never heard of these people.
Do these people send you a Christmas card?
They send me more than Christmas cards. They're my friends. You know, I really don't want anything from them. All I want them to do is to spread what they got from me. Mm-hmm. You know, God gave it to me, and they got it from me, so just carry the good word over the world, that's all. I don't want nothing. I just want them to do what's right. Like James Brown, he was my singer in my band, he was with me. Yeah. Joe Tex was my singer, Otis Reddings. Jimi Hendrix was my guitar player for 4 years. But you never hear about all of this from me. You know, everybody said, well, what did he do? I did it all, but then nobody know nothing about it.
I wish I could.
And that's where it happened. When you're Jewish, they do you like that.
Imagine recording television every hour of every day for over 30 years. That's exactly what Marion Stokes did. A former librarian and civil rights activist from Philadelphia, Marion began her journey in 1979. She believed the media was shaping public perception in real time, and she wanted to preserve it. While others watched the news, she recorded it 24/7. From CNN to C-SPAN, Fox News to local stations, she managed up to 8 VCRs at once, switching tapes every 6 hours without fail. Her apartment was filled wall-to-wall with tapes, over 71,000 of them. She wasn't doing it for fame. She wasn't doing it for money. She did it because she believed truth mattered. After her passing in 2012, her massive archive was donated to the Internet Archive. Marion Stokes didn't just watch history. She preserved it, for all of us.
Alright, so this video was originally going to be about moments in American history that I thought was important to highlight due to the suppression of certain facts. But then this black fatigue topic started trending, and I had a few thoughts on it, so I decided to add this section last minute. So just keep in mind that this is an insert, and I'll say more at the end of the black fatigue compilation. So anyway, here we go.
A white mom called a 5-year-old child the N-word, doubled down on her racial slur, and then flipped off that kid's family. And how after that incident went viral all over the internet, a Christian fundraising site called Give, Send, Go raised over $700,000. But not for that little kid who had to endure that woman's racial slurs. No. They raised $700,000 for the white mom yelling racial slurs at a 5-year-old child. After the mom doubled down on the content in that video saying, and I quote, "I called the kid out for what he was," a Christian fundraising platform raised more than $700,000 for that woman. And what does it say about our country that she felt free to treat a child that way and then doubled down on her racism afterward and was also flooded with support from people who were like, hell yeah, girl, be a total shitbag to a little kid, lob those racial slurs at a child. Like, what does that say about our country?
It's just the caucasity of it all.
I can only imagine just how irresponsible it could get.
Is anyone else seeing the black fatigue videos popping up on their TikTok? I keep seeing these videos on my FYP. I do not know why. And it's basically white people and black men saying that they are sick and tired of certain people going into the stores, making all these noises, being entitled to things that they shouldn't be entitled to because they're living on Section 8, they're getting EBT, they're getting Medicaid, and they're the biggest complainers of our society.
So this woman, she thought she had some meaningful contribution to this conversation.
Black fatigue is real. I think society as a whole is there. We are just so unbelievably fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior, entitlement, the victimhood. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Is this what y'all like to see? I think you're lying. I think you're lying. I think you thoroughly enjoy that content. In fact, if you didn't enjoy that content, y'all wouldn't be dressing the part. We gotta have a whole conversation about cultural appropriation and how far is too far every October.
She'll be watching her back for the rest of her life. Yeah, because that's not thuggery, hoodrattery, animalistic. This is why people have black fatigue. When you act like this, it's not normal behavior.
So I had not initially seen these two now deleted videos from a woman who was attempting to talk about what happened in Rochester, Minnesota, where she said, yeah, okay, it wasn't okay that this woman did this, but all of American society has black fatigue. First off, girlfriend, your little racist backwater does not represent all of American society, and how fucking dare you think you speak for all of us?
But what's crazy is that they don't even know what black fatigue is. They're trying to coin this definition and turn it into something that they created to fit their narrative. So black fatigue is actually a definition or a term that was coined by Mary Frances Winters a while back. And it's described as the cumulative exhaustion and stress experienced by black individuals due to ongoing exposure to racism, discrimination, and systemic inequalities. It encompasses physical, mental, and emotional toll for everyday acts of aggression, the constant need to prove one's worth, and the prevalence of news about injustice and violence against people of color. It also goes on to describe and say that Mary Winters described the extreme exhaustion and stress experienced by black individuals as a result of living with racism and consequences.
I was confused because I had not heard the term black fatigue used that way. I thought black fatigue was referencing the exhausting experience of being a black person in the United States of America. How the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow, how institutionalized racism, generational poverty, and the unending, exhausting push for racial justice in this country are causing black people to feel a bone-deep, spiritually deep level of fatigue. In my mind, I'm thinking black fatigue like the book that Mary Frances Winters wrote in 2020 called Black Fatigue, How Racism Erodes the Mind, Body, and Spirit. Winters' book describes how in every aspect of life, from economics to education to work, criminal justice, and very importantly, health outcomes, the trajectory for black people is not improving. That the book is trying to illuminate the myriad dire consequences of living while black.
Now, do y'all want the good news or the bad news first? Huh? Y'all want the good news or the bad news first? I was always somebody that would say, let me get the bad news first because I want to end on a good note. I want to end on good, but that's not the way that I've structured this video. So here's the good news, okay? The good news is that there were no shortage of white people willing to get their own people together over this blatant racist trash.
Who is we?
I was looking that shit up, like, what the hell is this new hashtag coming out?
Black fatigue, are you kidding me? Is this? Black fatigue, are you kidding me? Gentrification is a powerful word that y'all need to look up the definition of and read it over and over again. What do you mean you've got black fatigue?
Black fatigue is trending, so I thought I would make a statement on this as well as share a personal experience about my black fatigue. But you can't own language. Establish that first. So let's talk about growing contradiction and how we approach language and race. We are told that certain words are off limits because they're offensive or harmful. Okay, fair enough. But then, in the same breath, we see one group, often the black community, using these exact same words in everyday conversation. And when anybody outside of that group uses that language, they're immediately called racist or attacked, canceled, or shamed. That's not equity. That's not inclusion. That is epitome of the everyday, broken, modern DEI.
Oh, you got him?
Yeah, white fatigue is not fucking real. Of course it's not fucking real. Are you kidding me? White fatigue is what very clearly racist white people will try to hide behind because they're tired of having to tiptoe around certain people in certain settings because they don't know how to tell what they are and are not allowed to say anymore.
Low emotional literacy and fragile feelings. And being reminded of my privilege and the fragility of my feelings, that's black people's fault. That is what black fatigue means when conservatives say it.
Is black fatigue a real thing? You know me, I won't shy away from a conversation. And no, it's not. Let me explain something to everybody. What you are seeing right now is woke political fatigue. There are plenty of black people that are not woke, and do not pretend to be a victim every day, and do not dislike white people just because they exist, and do not think the world owes them something, that are conservative, that voted for Trump. If black fatigue was a real thing, it would encompass all black people, and it does not.
Okay, first things first. Did you just make a video talking about the victimhood of the progressives and the liberals while complaining about being sick of woke? Is that what you just did? Did you just make a whole video about feeling oppressed by the woke movement and this rebellion against the woke movement and then slide in the victimhood? That's what you did. That is without a hint of irony. Yeah, without a hint of irony, mind you.
I know people don't like to hear that politics is at the root of everything going on in this country right now, but it is. Just like people going around saying there's about to be a race war, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. There may be a political war in the guise of a race war, but it will never be about race. One, the numbers ain't there. Two, our political beliefs are intertwined with our racism, our core values. They're sewn together with a single thread. The Liberal Party plays on that victimhood. Not only does it encourage it, it celebrates it. It does nothing but empower people that think they're victims, which is why everybody's getting so brazen right now in society. Y'all do not be fooled. This is not racial warfare. At its heart, this is political warfare. There may be a few radical people, but to this I say to them, nobody come over here alive today on that boat. Nobody alive today owned anybody on that boat. And one of the biggest things that people forget, yes, white people might have bought black people, but black people sold black people. Her ancestors were not innocent.
I am definitely not going to let you get away with it. Oh, well, we might have bought black people, but your ancestors sold them. Well, you know what? If my ancestors were running the country right now, I would ask them for some of that money that they got for that sale. But they're not. And we have no idea who they even are because records were intentionally destroyed to eliminate any connection we might have to the homeland. But that would be more woke and victimhood now, wouldn't it? Also known as facts. But a lot of these words will probably change their connotation now that we have no more Department of Education.
In my opinion, it's time to leave the past in the past and address the real issue, which is people's indoctrinations into their politics, not being able to think for themselves. That's not awesome, the whole thing. Go with the Lord.
He said, go with the Lord. Meanwhile, the far right just called the Pope a piece of S. He's called, oh, that's more woke. I know, that is more woke.
White people who are appropriating the term black fatigue are doing so because their goal was to never see us happy in our blackness, be proud of our blackness, choose blackness over whiteness.
Once again, white people are co-opting black people's terminology and twisting something important, a really crucial concept that we need to understand, and they're twisting it into something it didn't originally mean. They're twisting it into something poisonous and dirty and offensive, right? Just like DEI originally was about diversity, equity, and inclusion, really good, positive things. And the Trump regime has twisted it to mean something negative in the eyes of many Americans now. Right, it's not unlike how conservatives took the term woke and they twisted it into something that now has a negative connotation. They appropriated the word and then tried to transform it into an insult.
And they hate the concept of not being allowed to say something. My parents will never shut the fuck up about this. It's harder for racist white people these days to tell what they can and cannot say in certain settings, and they don't know if they're going to face consequences or not. So they are fatigued of trying to figure that out.
Right, it's obviously crystal fucking clear that the woman at the beginning of this video is out and proud about her racism, right? Black fatigue to her means I'm tired of having to look at black people. I'm tired of having to interface with black people living their lives. I'm uncomfortable with black culture. I'm uncomfortable with any behavior out of a very narrow, polite range of what is expected of white people. I feel distress when I see people who are behaving in ways that do not conform to my white Christian version of politeness. But like even more than that, I think what she's saying with black fatigue is I am tired of having to face institutional racism. I'm tired of having to look at black people when they show me, they demonstrate to me that racism is alive and well in this culture, that generational poverty is alive and well in this culture, that racial discrimination is alive and well in this culture. I don't like having to look at that. That makes me really uncomfortable.
They are tired of trying to censor themselves and trying to figure out when they do and do not have to. That's the only thing that they're tired of. They're tired of being called out for their racism. That is literally it.
So what this woman is saying is that she is uncomfortable watching black people living their lives. Either because so many components of black culture don't meet the societal etiquette, politeness expectations that are put on white people, or her racism makes her intolerant of having to look at black people, witness black culture, or because on some level her discomfort is tied to guilt and shame. She does not like having to look at, be faced with any of the evidence of racial injustice, of black oppression, of systemic poverty that are widespread in this country. The white woman's right to comfort is saying that protecting the feelings of white women, making sure that they do not feel any amount of discomfort or distress over justice and over the lives of other people. Black fatigue is just the white woman's right to comfort repackaged in a way that tries to blame black people for white women having no distress tolerance and no ability or desire to want to face their own racism and unpack it.
Amen to that. I have never known a group of people so obsessed with that word.
But you can't own language. We are told that certain words are off limits because they're offensive or harmful.
I have never, he talks about how everybody should have freedom. Language belongs to everybody, or it belongs to no. The language belongs to you. The language, absolutely, you can feel free to say whatever you want to say. Just know that it's going to have some connotations coming from you, and we accept that in so many other circumstances. We accept it from women, we accept it from other minorities, you accept it from each other about things that you do or don't want to be called.
Being is it that we make up such a small percentage of America, it's interesting to me how offended they are by maybe 1 out of 10 people, if they even know one of us.
Now here's the thing. If you actually were around any black people, those kinds of depictions would lose their power. But
with black fatigue, we're going to stop listening to black people. Well, I said someone who lives in Davenport, Iowa, and knows 1.5 black people. You don't live by black people or interact with black. You get all your information off TV shows and what Fox News. Who cares? Good riddance. God, racism is so cowardly. Like, what happened? People used to say it with their chest. Now they're all skittish and all these code words. Like, we don't know what that means.
Like, and then you have other black women too in the comments saying, yeah, I'm sick of them too. I have black fatigue. Like, I'm so sick of these certain type of demographic of women. Newsflash, they don't give a fuck. If they see you in public, ma'am, with the Mercedes-Benz or the Tesla, they're still going to associate you with being like any other perception of black women that they have. So you sitting in the comments trying to state your case, trying to make it look like I'm not one of them. How's that worked out for you so far? It hasn't, has it? That's why you're in the comments of a social media video trying to prove that you're not like the rest of the world, the way the world perceives you.
Right, and notice how she so freely, easily dehumanizes the appearance of black people, the behavior of black people, the culture of black people. She chooses to use terms like ratchet, like thug, like animalistic. And I realized watching her videos a couple times over that when she says black fatigue, what she really means is the white woman's right to comfort. I don't want to have to look at things or people that make me feel any level of distress, that make me uncomfortable in any way. The prioritization of my comfort must be put above all else, including like black people's right to live their lives.
Violence against them, systemic and systematic and consistent and continued racism. And she probably doesn't even think she's a racist. That's the hilarious gag.
Especially based on the way that she's describing the black behavior and black people that make her uncomfortable. Black people in poverty.
Black women especially, who are highly educated, highly capable, highly experienced, but can't get promoted, can't get pay equity, can't get even hired in a lot of the times, in a lot of cases.
But I just want to say, I want black women not to engage. It is hilarious. Every time I see them coming for us and we're like just minding our business.
Can black people not go a day on this app without y'all trying to get some bullshit out of them? I mean, seriously, leave these people the fuck alone. That's all they've ever really wanted was, hey, we can make our own communities flourish. We don't need white man's help. White people come in, we bring in the fucking Popeye's chicken. We bring in the CIA. We bring in gentrification. I mean, good God. Can y'all not just, why? What is the point of this whole woman? April's unfiltered, yeah, you need a filter. All right, you need to stop thinking that you can just say anything and say that you're, oh, I'm unfiltered, I don't have a filter, I just say what I'm feeling. Hey, maybe, just maybe, for 2 seconds, you think? I mean, at this point, it's so obvious y'all just trying to bait to get on Fox News. I don't get it. Leave the black community alone for 5 seconds.
No jokes aside, it's scary that you look like this and you try to get out there and do your best and make your way and disregard and shake the haters off. But this is tell us how you really feel.
If I'm not allowed to blame you for all of my life's problems, then you're not allowed to blame me for yours.
I don't even know you, so I don't see why that would be a thing. Yeah, I don't think anybody has blamed you for anything other than not being at your shift. I don't know why you're sitting in the car feeling that level of importance. I have no idea.
And a lot of people are like, yeah, and they have all this colorful hair and they're walking around with all their 17 kids in their bonnet. And basically what it sounds to me is like they're describing black women, not black women as a whole, but black women who are living below the poverty level or within the poverty level. But then you have people who are throwing in comments saying, yeah, like Whoopi Goldberg, I'm sick of her, or overweight black women like Lizzo and things like that. And it's like, yeah, you're just describing black women at this point. No black men are going to jump in the comments and white people are going to say, well, look at you wearing your bonnet. I'm out here at 8 in the morning. I'm checking on my garden and I'm also checking on my chickens, okay? That's why I'm wearing a bonnet. It's my yard. I'm on 2 acres of land.
Black fatigue is real. Everybody is tired of black people.
Nope. Not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Why is he even in this section of the video? I was going to go to Black MAGA later. How did he end up in the white people talking about black fatigue section of the video? You know what I mean? You deal with him.
Black fatigue is real. Everybody is tired of black people, but it's 2 specific types of black people that everyone is tired of.
Of course, your pick-me ass is going to agree with the black fatigue topic. I know you are. Every time you pop up on my feed, you're always being anti-black. It's like, sir, we know you don't love being black. We know that you want to paint your skin white and you want to dye your hair blonde and you want to pop in some blue eye contacts so you could be considered white. We know that. I would never forget the day this man went into a bar that was very much so racist, and them white people was ready to tear him apart, calling him the racial slurs and all kinds of stuff. I remember that video. So while you're over here pandering to your white audience, they don't even want you in their circle or even in their club. So have several seats, sir.
I don't know whether it's just to stir a response or somehow cause a reaction, feed black people looting videos of black people brawling, things like that. And if someone sits there and they're fed that continuously, a stream of this propaganda, a stream of it, it's going to feed that hatred.
Which is, by the way, an excellent point. But let's not pretend that we haven't seen how footage of black people has been used by the news, even when the news was responsible and objective. We've seen back in the 80s, 90s, how black people were depicted in the news.
There have been studies on this. Local news overrepresents black folks as perpetrators, overrepresents white folks as victims. So the message that gets sent is they're dangerous, and specifically to you. They are not only bad people, they're going to hurt you. So therefore, we want to keep them on that side of town. We want to keep their children in those schools over there. We don't want to work around them. We don't want to live around them, et cetera, et cetera.
White violence is viewed completely different than black violence. White violence is almost always justified, and black violence almost never is. I mean, literally pardoned.
So I think that message comes through loud and clear in the way that media represents people of color. Whenever we, thinking about Tamir Rice, the 12-year-old child that was shot in Cleveland by police, when that happened, what did they do? The first news story in Cleveland that made a big splash was about Tamir Rice's parents and the history of domestic abuse and criminality among his parents, not about the cop that killed him. We talk worse about black victims than we do white killers. What did we say about Ted Bundy? Oh, he was so smart and he was so quiet and he always seemed so nice. Every time one of these white boys goes and shoots up a school, what do we say? We had no idea he was going to do this. So we talk better. We have more sympathy for white folks who commit mass murder, bury bodies under the house, cook them up in a soup pot and eat them, right? Than we do black folks who were killed by police. We start digging for every bad thing they ever did. We want to know if they had a juvenile record. We want to know if they'd ever been arrested. That's what the media does. And until that changes, I'm afraid white folks will stay in denial, and it'll be very hard for us to move forward, whether we're talking about cops or just average everyday folks.
We're tired of this type of behavior. We're tired of this type of commentary. We're tired of this kind of disconnect and this kind of acceptance of violence, disrespect, and disregard of people of color.
So I just wanted to say a few things before we move on. It's like they said, depictions of white people are completely different than depictions of black people, in many cases. For example, when a white person wears a scarf of some sort on their head, that's just considered a style. But when a black person wears the black equivalent, which is a bonnet, it's considered ratchet or ghetto. People talk about how black people are being animalistic rioters, when what they are rioting over is systematic oppression and murder against their people. Whereas with white people, they riot over sports. So you want to talk about animalistic, and also most of the school shooters are white. Like, come on. White people can yell at the top of their lungs over whatever is bothering them, and people accept it, especially with white men. But if a black person yells, especially when it comes to black women, they're considered rude and aggressive, while the white equivalent is considered passionate and brave. And white people don't have to live around black people. They can go to places where there are no black people. Black people, on the other hand, have to interact with white people. So when white people cry about black fatigue, it makes no sense on so many different levels. And I think that unless we have conversations about these things and call them out when we see it, we will never make progress. So with that being said, I'm going to start the rest of the original recording that I had before adding this section, which are parts of American history that has been misrepresented and hidden or lost. Hey everyone! I was inspired to make this video because of a short that I watched that will also be in this video. Can you guess which one it is? So there's a lot of things about American history that I don't think many people know about, and I realized just how prevalent those misunderstandings are because of this AI overview that I found. This is what it says.
While some Black Americans identify as Black Native Americans or Afro-Indigenous, the term indigenous typically refers to the original inhabitants of a land, like the Native Americans who were here before European colonization. African Americans, on the other hand, are the descendants of people of African descent who were brought to the Americas primarily through the transatlantic slave trade. The history of Black Americans is complex, with many having roots in both African and Native American communities, particularly in the context of the 5 civilized tribes and their relationships with enslaved people.
Even the AI is confused and contradicting itself here, and a large part of that is because chattel slavery and indentured servitude are 2 completely different things.
Indentured servitude differed from slavery in that it was a form of debt bondage, meaning it was an agreed-upon term of unpaid labor that usually paid off the costs of the servant's immigration to America. Indentured servants were not paid wages, but they were generally housed, clothed, and fed.
This is where the timeline gets confused. However, in the 17th century, there were free Black Virginians that could vote and own property. There are non-Semin natives and Rappahannock natives.
Rappahannock, Virginia, the tribe gets its land back. My great-great-great-grandmother here is an indigenous American. She lived in the early Virginias. Her father here, Samuel Thomas, William Thomas. Lugania Thomas, my great-great-grandmother, also born in Rappahannock, Virginia. They go back to the 1700s to the same area. Black people are indigenous.
This is also an important article that you could read about Virginia at that time. And it begs the question, why would they give the land back to the Rappahannock natives if they weren't already here? Black people are indigenous to America, but there are people who only know of black people as slaves, who were brought to America. You can search this in the census records for free, the United States Census Bureau, for this information, I mean. America as we know it started in 1865 because that's when the Civil War ended. There were black people fighting in the Civil War. Black people helped to fight for the freedom of this country. So how could they be slaves while fighting in the Civil War and getting a pension? As a dedication to their fight, there is an African American Civil War memorial. In 1921, Black Wall Street was funded by Penny Savers Bank, or rather, people who invested in Penny Savers Bank in Alabama and banks such as that were going to invest in Black Wall Street. But because they weren't seen as American citizens, even after fighting for this country, it was burnt to the ground. Ida B. Wells was born in the 1860s. She was an American journalist and a sociologist and started the National Advancement Association of Colored Women, which later became the National Advancement Association of Colored People, also known as the NAACP. She was the one who started the movement, speaking out about women voting. However, men could vote, and when black men went to vote, they were warned to either bring women with them or have protection, but they didn't, and as a result, a mob attacked and killed at least 50 black men. And as a result of this, she was very instrumental in putting the very first anti-lynching laws on the books. During the time of her campaign, lynchings went from 235 down to 107. She was a human rights activist and a women's suffrage activist who lived from 1862 to 1931. Henrietta Lacks was born in 1920 and died in 1951. While being treated for a condition for cervical cancer, her cells were stolen. Her cells were immortalized and used in scientific research. The cells kept replicating and doubling, and so they used the replication of her cells for one of the biggest breakthroughs in vaccine history of all time, which was the polio vaccine. They used HeLa cells. Most vaccines today contain HeLa cells, like childhood vaccinations, which came from her. They named the cell after her. We would not be able to advance in most of the vaccines that we use today if it weren't for her cells. Rosa Parks has a well-known history of sitting on the bus, being asked to move and give up her seat to a white man, but the real story was silenced. She was a pioneer against sexual violence, and many people don't know that side of the story.
Most of us know Rosa Parks as the black woman who sat down on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955 and refused to give up her seat to a white man. Her defiant act was a catalyst for the Montgomery bus boycott, and she rightfully became an iconic leader in the civil rights movement. Parks is often mischaracterized in history books as a quiet, old seamstress. However, she wasn't quiet, and she wasn't old. The 42-year-old Rosa Parks, who defied white supremacy by refusing to stand, was also a leading pioneer in the fight to stop sexual violence against black women.
She investigated a case of sexual violence during Jim Crow in the 1940s, 11 years before the bus boycott. And before she became an investigator, she was almost kidnapped as well as an attempted rape against her by a man in 1931. I really recommend that you read this page about her history because Rosa Parks was labeled the best investigator of sexual violence against women of that time. After looking at all these people, it makes you wonder what else don't you know or what else could be a part of history that affects us to this day. And as I look into research about inventions, there were so many created by black people to where there is a book called Black People Invented Everything. I've mentioned it before on my channel, I believe. Because you can't go a day without using an invention from a black person, but a lot of that history has been buried and erased. So I just want to share some things that I've come to learn about American history, and I hope that it can resonate with someone like how it resonated with me. That being said, thank you so much for watching and supporting my content, and before we end this video, let's have some fun.
The year is 1991. Birds and people are living together in seemingly perfect harmony, until one day a young man catches fire. This is Phoenix.
Like a phoenix, you burst passion. Oh, you don't let the ruthlessness prevail. Oh, it's time now, light your fires for ascension. Like a phoenix, you burst in a fire, burn a thirst and desire. You transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes. Phoenix, you burst in a fire, burn a thirst and desire. You transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes. Phoenix, you burst in a fire, burn a thirst and desire. You transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes. Phoenix, you burst in a fire, burn a thirst and desire. You transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes. But it's time now, you ignite and turn to embers. Like a phoenix, you burst in a fire, burn a thirst and desire. You transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes. Phoenix, you burst in a fire, burn a thirst and desire. You transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes.